So this is a fun exercise because it is something that is very common on set, and that is finding where your eye line is and asking your operator. As we have our lens here, shooting, I mean, obviously this is like straight on at Haley on a very tight lens, but that's just because I wanted to show you how different certain eye lines are. And so let me just focus on her. Yeah, very shallow, so if I stay very still, hey. The only thing we want to change here is where her eyes are looking. So currently, let's look down the barrel of the lens to start. So that is Haley probably looking pretty uncomfortable because she knows she's really tight on a lens, looking straight down, breaking the fourth wall. And the biggest thing we want to note for something like that is that breaking the fourth wall is when the audience knows you've come alive and you're no longer in your world anymore. And so we want to avoid that a lot of the time, unless it's a stylistic choice for narrative work. The biggest way of doing that is being next to the lens with your eyes and your eye line, but not looking down the barrel of the lens. So that's looking down the barrel of the lens. Can I see what it would look like, hey, if we put you right here? So Seth, go down to where I'm pointing as well, if you can. Yeah, so we're putting her, let's do right here. So just on the edge of the lens there. So as you can see for something like that, we're not looking down the barrel of the lens, but we're still pretty close to her. So we haven't broken that fourth wall. And that's a way of staying connected to your audience, but still being in the world of your character. How does that feel, Hey? Is that like easy to take note of?
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's an easy slip back into down the barrel, so you have to be really careful. It's probably a skill that you should practice.
Okay, so now let's try something else. If I wanted to put you on the other side of the line, that's when we would put you on this side instead. Whoops, right over here. So see, go between my fingers. So here, that's A, that's B. A, B. Look how much of a move, without my body touching it, look how much of a move that is. A, B.
Do you want me still on the edge or where your fingers are now?
Let's go to the edge.
Okay.
So let's take a look at just how crazy different that is. Not for movement of eyes, I mean, that's only a few inches, but like, look at how crazy different that is. So here's A, here's B. A, B. Completely different look. And so when we're looking at like the side of the line, the 180 degree rule, that's really when you'll be like, okay, what side of the barrel of the lens am I on? That doesn't feel like a huge move, does it?
No.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
No, it's the tiniest little flick.
That's why it's like if you're not sure.
Accidentally.
Yeah, and that's why it's like if you're not sure, ask, because that's when the cutting can become an issue. So as well, let's try a little further out. So here's A. And that's like crazy, right? Because you can see that she looks like she's looking down right now, even though we're kind of still on the same line. So follow my, and now she's looking crazy up, even though it's only a few, like half a foot, maybe? So it's like there's a craziness associated. So just follow my finger for a bit. So we're staying close to the lens. Let's go further out from the lens. We're going up. We're going over the top of the lens. And we're coming back down to the top here. So I really love where we've settled here. Like this feels really close to the lens, but it doesn't feel like it's breaking the world. And that's because we're just looking right above it. And so, I don't know, Hey looks really great with that kind of eye line. So determining where your eye line is always gonna be a conversation, because say I go over here and Hey looks at me. Yeah, go for it, if you can. So if you're looking at me right now, turn with your head actually. Let's go, yeah. So now we're going into like 3/4 profile world. And you can see that if you were having a conversation with someone over here, you would be pretty disconnected from your audience. However, if you come back to the top of that lens, which I really love, there's like a huge difference in how we feel towards Hey as a character right now. And that's just something when you're like observing eye line, that's a huge deal. So now if we're going over here, right? Yeah, following with your head. It's just, yeah, it's pretty wild. Because for you, I mean, you're moving your head to nothing. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
it's like 2 feet.
yeah, and it
from
creates a
away.
completely different character. And so that's the importance of how eyeline is so different, because someone could give you a tape mark for right here, and someone could give you a tape mark. It's like, oh, does that feel right? But it's really how it looks on camera, because for you, it doesn't feel like a big difference.
Not at all.
You're like, okay, that
Inches.
feels right, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, but they look so different on camera. And that's just a demo of how eyeline, we can play with eyeline, and how important it is in order to cut together the scene correctly. So you also had a question about emotion.
I did have a question. I wondered if there are known eye lines that cinematographers use to evoke different emotions.
I mean, rule of thumb is the closer your eyeline is to the lens, the more connected you're going to feel.
Okay.
Emotions, specifically emotions, it depends. Once again, genre, am I in a horror? Do I want to look really like almost right into the lens, like you're like down the barrel, but you're like slightly off, like you're maybe like, go right there. That even like is dangerous, real dangerous territory compared to here. It feels dangerous. It's like a horror film, it feels dangerous. But for something like to feel connected to a romantic partner on screen, you would probably go closer. If you wanted the character to feel a little more isolated, if I was in like a OTS right now and you were having a conversation with me at a coffee shop, you might want to be like a further eyeline, like right here, you know?
Okay.
But if you wanted to feel like closer to me at a coffee shop when we're having like a meet cute, they might put me right here in the scene. And that already feels like so much more intimate because you're closer to the character as a camera.
The closer your eyes are to the lens, the closer your audience is going to feel to your character.
Correct.
Incredible.
Yeah. So it's a really good idea to always ask for a mark because everything's black on here. So it's hard sometimes if you're like acting to know to come back to that point on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the time, like, I'll get an example of some tape on the floor. A lot of the time, your operator will be here, and you'll be like, hey, can I have a mark for eyeline? And you can ask that. You can say, can I have a mark for eyeline? And you'll go, where were you looking? So tell me where you were looking.
I was looking right above the lens at the little knob under the...
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
Right in the
So
middle of
what I
that.
would do then as an operator is I would probably take some mark from my AC and put that. Because now, if we're focusing on this, that's so much easier for you. Imagine someone comes into the scene, right? And Steph, don't worry about following me. You can stay on the camera. But imagine someone comes in and they're meeting you for a breakup, right? And you're like, so you follow them from the door and you go like, oh, hey, how are you?
Welcome.
Thanks. And you have to like sit right back in where that eyeline is.
Have you been?
If there wasn't that
Yeah.
blue marker, you'd be like searching. You would see
Be
that
lost.
search on this tight of a lens.
Yeah.
So it's really important to ask if you know that there's not like a piece of color or like something specific you're looking at, because if not, we will see your eyes dart in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, great.
I've just done that before. So.
You what?
I've just done that before.
Yeah.
Had to search for what part of the all black camera
Yeah.
I was looking at
Yeah.
while the lights are blazing
Yeah.
in my face.
I know you can barely see the camera.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a expected thing that if you want to ask for a mark for eyeline, we are absolutely able to provide that for you.